You're listening to the Guy Vancouver, recorded at Get Ready Sound.
Hey, welcome back to the Guy Vancouver Podcast. I'd like to thank everyone for dropping in and listening. I'm going to do my usual. Remember to follow me. Download all my episodes. Go back, listen to last season. They are so fabulous. The millions of people that have listened have just said they're great to me, or 1,000,001, I think. So catch up on all my old podcasts. And this season, I've already recorded like half a dozen. It's super exciting, super diverse. We're talking about everything from our favorite food and drink to have a great guitar guest coming in, fashion and clothing. It is super diverse this year. Super exciting. Just like today is. Today, I have an awesome guest in. She is an old friend of mine. When you hear the story and stuff, you're going to laugh, because I even laugh when I just think about it. She is one of the founders of stand-up paddling in Vancouver, without a doubt. She has created an incredible business for stand-up paddling, combining one of my favorite things, yoga, and stand-up paddling. I've done yoga once. I hurt for weeks. Her connection to the water, her connection to the industry. And I'm even going to say that I'm pretty sure she is one of the most outstanding female surfers in Canada, stand-up surfers, because you were on podium this year. What place did you get?
This last year, I think I was third.
Third on the podium for SUP paddling out of the big Tofino events. So on the water, she's a goddess. Her business is incredible. It's really good because it's really strong in the whole women aspect, promoting women out on the water and women paddling. My friend, Christie. Welcome, Christie.
Thanks for having me, Kelly. I'm excited to be here. It's been a long time.
Yes, last year I tried to get you on the show, but it was not the right time. It was right in the middle of your work season in the winter or summer, I mean.
Yeah, it's always hard to get me in one place for very long.
Yes. And I tried for a few times, but we just couldn't hook up, but it was no problem. I knew that I was going to be doing this I was pretty sure the studio wasn't going anywhere. So I would get you on and we would get to talk about, one of my favorite things in the world, which is stand-up paddling. I mean, outside of maybe last year, I had a little bit of health problems. I didn't get to do it. But before that, I was pretty staple on the water. A lot of people knew me. Maybe they didn't love me, but they knew who I was. And, especially too, Mitchell paddled extensively racing. I'm pretty sure, because we were actually talking to Norm a while ago. We'll touch base on Norm, but Mitchell was the first junior to get certified as an instructor. And you might have been one of the first women. I don't know if you did with Norm or you went,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, now we're kind of going into where it all started, but once I started paddling, I connected with Norm, did my Paddle Canada instructor training, and that was the second official stand-up paddle instructor training ever taught. So we were part of the second one, and there was probably 3 women in that course, and we had a blast.
And then I know that Mitchell was the first, and that's what it was. So he was like the first junior, because I think he was he was 17.
Yeah,
because he went to work for then a paddle company and he was teaching everything. So, it's crazy, like all the stuff we've done. But let's start from the very beginning, okay? I'm with my dyslexia, I'm terrible with years, but this is, I don't know, 2000. What year was that?
It was 2011.
2011. So probably a year before that, I see stand-up paddling and I'm like, I got to do this. I'm in love. I cannot find a board in Vancouver. I cannot find a board anywhere. I go to Pacific Border. The guy there goes, I'm getting this board in. And I was like, okay, it's mine. Paid for it right then and there. It was a more of a surf style stand-up board. I got it. I started paddling. I was just freaking out, loving it. And then I found my favorite place to go was the Locarno parking lot, Jericho Beach there, because it was free. And it's the closest access to the water. And so I roll in one day. And I see, I don't know what vehicle you guys had there. I think you had because you didn't have the van yet.
We had a couple, we had one SUV actually, and I had my car. And I had a car with no roof rack, and I still would put paddle boards on top
Right.
of it.
So I rolled in and I saw these cars with paddle boards on them, multiple ones. And so I got my board out, and I think I even went paddling first, and then I came back, and you and your partner at that time, which I forgot her name again, Karina, were there. And because I'm not a shy guy, I walked up to you guys and I was like, what the hell are you doing with all these boards? And, you know, you guys explained to me that you were going to try to start this paddling, I think it was rentals at that time, and lessons and all that stuff.
Oh, we were ready. We were ready for everything and anything coming our way. To backtrack from our perspective, I met Karina the year prior. We were mutual friends of a friend who got married in Maui. And while we were in Maui, another friend who I actually took the instructor training with, so it sort of bounces around here, she and her partner had paddle boards at their place in Maui, and I had never heard of it, never considered it. We'd started seeing people in Hawaii doing it, and she's like, oh, there's some paddle boards, just grab them and go. And so it was me, my now husband, Adam, and our really good friend, Brian Fishbook. And we all came out and paddled together, and the boys were falling in constantly.
As always, boys.
And I finally, because I was surfing with them, but I was a very basic intermediate surfer at the time, and I didn't know a lot. I was learning about the ocean, but I was on the paddleboard and I didn't fall in once. And the boys fell in like 20, 30, 50 times. And I just finally felt like I found my place. Like this was going to be something I could do. Fast track from there, on the way home from that trip, Karina had reached out to me and said, hey, I want to start a stand-up paddleboard business. What do you think about teaching yoga on a paddleboard? I saw it in a magazine while I was in Hawaii. I didn't even hesitate. I had only just been teaching yoga for half a year at that point, but I saw the paddleboard as a big floating yoga mat and was like, why not?
Yeah.
So I just said yes. And I was in this space of just trying things out that were new and exciting. And this sounded like a good idea. Where to begin? I had no idea.
Yeah. You know what? It's funny because when I talk to other business people about their origin story like that, it's just like when I opened my rock climbing gym. I had only been rock climbing for like 2 months, right. But I was so fell in love with it, and it came so naturally that, you know, and just the way circumstance I had the money. I just sold another business, and I opened a rock climbing gym, not even know how to rock climb. And it was super successful. And I love that story of yours, because I was saying that on TikTok this morning. It isn't about success. It's about the passion to create. And
totally.
And without a doubt, you, from what I know, because without a doubt, I was the first stand-up paddler in Vancouver.
Well, and then I would say, so then the story continues because we invested in a whole lot of paddle boards. Karina did a lot of work. She had owned her own business before, so she was kind of leading the charge. But we got a bunch of paddle boards. We showed up at the beach that day. We didn't know anything about anything at this point, but we showed up, we laid out the paddle boards, and we thought people are just going to come and rent paddle boards from us.
Oh, that's awesome.
And very quickly we learned. And of course, you came wandering along, and we then were like, oh my gosh, somebody's actually doing this. And I think you thought the same about us. We're finally finding our people, finding our tribe. Yeah. And of course, being on the beach there, I don't know, I thought it was you, it might have been someone else that sort of said, well, do you have a permit to be here? Is this something that you're going to be doing long term?
That's
we
sort
of
had
had this
about,
conversation. And then we were like, oh, do we need permits to do this?
Who knows, right? Yeah.
And we didn't know. And we did find out. Yeah. And then when we found out we actually weren't allowed to be at that location doing what we were doing, we investigated further. We got in touch with the city. We did the right things. We took all the steps.
Yeah.
And it was great. But it definitely, like, I would say it took a good 2 years.
Oh, for sure.
Of just explaining to people that walked by what we were doing and what is this big board that looks like a surfboard, but definitely. It's not.
Yeah. I mean, I remember too, because you guys, that first meeting we had, but you kept coming back there, because I think I said to you, you know what, just keep coming back until the city tells you no. And then you work with them, because that's how it works. Like they're behind too. So you guys did. And I know that I got my son into it right away, because he tried it once and he was phenomenal already. I was like, oh, Jesus, boy. Like, so then the joke always was like, yeah, you know, stand-up paddling's doubling. The first year was 2 people. Now it's 4 people.
Exactly.
You know?
So by year 2, we had double the people.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I just and I remember I came home, I told my wife about meeting you, and she was like, she said to me, "Oh, why don't you get into that business?" I said, you know what? I'd done the whole rock climbing thing and I loved it, but it became a business. I said, I'm already doing something else that I really like as a job. I want to do this as just I go to the beach at 6 a.m. I have my coffee, I paddle, and I let my energy flow in or out. I don't want it to become that I have to make a living for it. I said, I already met someone that wants to do that, and she's going to do great at it. And you have it's just you can tell the story better, but it started out with paddling, and then you grew to yoga paddling, and you're doing courses and you do instruction. You're an instructor for Canada's paddle. You are running something out of the Bayshore Inn on these floaties. You've grown it immensely with all those ideas and combining it with the yoga. So I said, yeah, I don't need to be there. I just need to be around and hang out and watch you do great things and be just part of the tribe, right?
Well, and I always say, every paddler who loves it as much as we do is an ambassador of the sport. You don't have to do anything else but share your passion for it. Yeah. And I think you're a testament to that. You always have been from the day we met on that beach. And I think we both joke about that day because you were the first that we came across.
You guys were the first too. I remember I got back and I told Mitch, and he was like, "What? Really? There's other people doing this?" I was like, "Yes, there's other people." Now, jump forward how many years? You go to Jericho now or coming out of the paddling center or the sailing center there. It's great. In the summertime, there's hundreds of kids doing the programs. It's amazing. It's grown immensely. In saying that, though, from my perspective, when we first got into it, it was super exciting. I loved, because I like gear too. So I loved the boards. As boards advanced and paddles advanced, there was at one time I'm pretty sure I had 12 boards in my yard, right? So, and my wife was really good about it because she's like, "Oh, it's a great thing." I was doing it. My son was doing it. My youngest daughter was doing it. And it's exercises being out there. But she was like, yeah, the 12 boards is enough between the two of you. But the thing that I really loved about paddling, okay, and this is my weirdness of it, is so when I get out there, it's quiet and you're all alone. Some days it's busy, but even still, the space is good. I've gotten to paddle now a lot of places. I went to work in Fiji. I got to paddle in Fiji in this most gorgeous place. But I'm going to tell you, my most world famous favorite place is paddling from Kits to the top of the bay on a beautiful morning when the tide's going down and then that sandbar occurs. And I paddle out there and I sit there quietly. And then as that tide turns and the wind just starts to pick up, paddling back in, nothing is more beautiful than looking at the city, and by this time it's only 7:30 in the morning. The bay isn't busy yet. There's not a lot of hustle and bustle. Every time I've done that, my spirit or my soul or whatever it is, that's a good part of me, just grows. And so that's what I loved about it. I saw the industry start to deteriorate, though, in my mind. And it isn't. It's a great thing. I love that everyone can paddle. But when Costco started putting out $100 floaties with the paddle, and I have a lot of stories, I'm sure, but this was the one, okay? So I'm at the beach. I'm getting on my $2,000 board and my $500 paddle, and I'm, paddling properly. I've got my life jacket on because, it's the water. She's a dangerous mistress. Here's this lady on the $100 Costco board, half inflated, with her paddle backwards, paddling in circles. And I'm like, I can help you out here. And she was like, "No, the man from Costco told me this is how you do it." And I was like, it's been subverted by the mass of let's sell crap to people. That's what hurt me. Because I love the understanding of the water, knowing the tides, watching the wind, being connected with it.
And I 100%, I can 100% appreciate it because, we grew with the sport. We came from the foundation of it from surfers, which is where the sport really is from and how it was created. But everyone, as we know, wants to make a buck.
Yeah.
So it comes back to you're the first to market, and then everyone that follows you is going to get so much out of it. And there definitely is a part of me that wants people to become paddlers.
Yes, me too.
And then there's the part of me that just looks at people who are out on the water and know that they're getting some portion of what you just described, that little bit of magic of just being on the water, whether they're sitting, lying down, standing up. It is called stand-up paddleboarding.
Yes.
So standing is a criteria.
Yeah, it's not called kneel boarding, but
there is a part of it that, it's gifting people an easier access to the water than, say, a kayak.
Yes.
Meaning a kayak is heavier, it's more robust. There's a lot more to get to and from. You often see couples doing it because it kind of takes two people to do it together. And this is such an individual, like you said, you go on your own and the magic is there. And the quality of equipment is definitely a huge broad spectrum. And that's an area that I get a little worked up about for sure when I have students show up to their first lesson, even last year, the years before, and they've got a board that they bought on Amazon or they bought at Costco.
Yeah.
And it's okay, meaning they can get on the water and they can be there, but it's going to make it more difficult for them to learn anything and be efficient and actually get the most out of the experience.
Yes.
So that's why I say they'll get a little bit, maybe they'll get the taste. And what ends up happening often with people who end up seeing me is they say, well, what should I get? And then the conversation goes from there.
And I can't tell you how many times that's happened. I'll hit the beach and, this is years later. So there's a lot of people hitting that beach. They've learned. So, maybe there's 6 or 7 paddlers and we head out and, I had a really nice board and I'm a little neurotic that way because not because it's not a bad thing, but I came from skiing. I was a ski instructor. So I like to ski really well and technically well and use as little muscle as possible. So in the paddling, I took many courses. We'd been on courses together. I wanted to be a really good paddler. Then I'd fly by these people and I'd be coming back from my paddle and they'd be not even a quarter of the way. And I remember one day, this one guy flagged me over and goes, "How did you do that?" And I said, well, and this was after me being a little bit tired of people. I'm like, well, I learned how to paddle. I said, what you're doing is rowing. Okay, it's not paddling. There's things you got to, and there's tons of people, but here's a little tip. Do this, do that.
Yeah.
Go on YouTube. That's just my neuroticism, okay?
Well,
I agree with you, though, that it's great that they're out there and they're doing it and they're out in nature.
It comes with a big but.
Yes.
Because there's a safety factor involved in that, too. And to anyone listening to this who's new to paddling maybe and just getting started with it, is take that lesson, not just for the physical skill set of technical paddling, but for the knowledge of tides and weather. The number of times I've told someone who I'm watching them launch and I can tell they don't know anything and they're getting blown to Port Moody from Barnett Beach.
Yep.
And they're never going to make it back.
Nope.
And I stop them right away and say, you've got to start going the other way, because if you don't, you're never going to make it back here. And the look in their face changes immediately, and they go, I didn't even consider that.
Or I've had people go, well, what do you know? And then I stop, and then I'm like, you know what? You're right. It's your choice to make mistakes. But again, I've encountered that. The one really good story I had, so I'm out, and it was a beautiful summer day. And, they were shipping people out of the Jericho Sailing Center like they were, but it was a strange day because it was blowing east. So I was like, this is good. I jumped out, boom, up to the bay. And then I was like, this is going to be a good workout coming back. So I'm like digging in. And there's this poor girl that had rented a board, a floaty to boot from Jericho. And she was stuck kind of right at the parking lot area of the Locarno, and she wasn't moving and she was bawling her eyes out. And so I paddled over and I was like, it's okay, relax, don't worry. First of all, she was standing on the very back of her board. So I said, just move up. In fact, just get on your knees because we have a big body in that wind and it was blowing about 10 to 12 by then. And if you're a rookie, you're no way, especially on a floaty. Like my board is pointy and it's made for that and it's still a good workout. Get on your knees, move forward, take your paddle, go like this. I said, I had an extra leash because, again, safety. I said, here's my leash, grab it. I'll paddle you into the beach. Oh my God. And she's like, thank you. I got her into the beach. She goes, now what do I do? I said, you leave that damn board there. You walk over there and you tell them to go get it and you get your money back. Yeah. I said, because they shouldn't have sent you out there in that weather because you had no idea that you couldn't paddle back. She goes, no, going down was really fun.
It always is.
Always is. And And that's one of the things that I found the progression of the sport then lost control of that because of the Costco's and the Walmart selling the boards, right? If you went to a board shop, they were gonna tell you and recommend that you should take a lesson, you know, and I know it looks really easy, but even that one lesson, you learn so much, and the basics are really important.
Well, and saying it looks easy too is part of that. A lot of people think it looks really easy, and then they get on it and they realize it's actually a lot harder than they thought.
Yeah.
To comment about you keep mentioning floaty, and I was like, floaty? I was like, oh, he means a stand-up paddleboard that's inflated, everyone.
Right. An inflatable paddleboard. I call them floaties.
But I bring that up because one of the funniest stories I have is from those early days with Karina, and we got the very first inflatable stand-up paddle board that was made. But because they weren't made very well, because no one knew how to make them, they were like a banana. So you stood in the middle, but the tip and the tail went straight up, and you basically just paddled in a circle. Yeah. So things have changed. The evolution of the board creations have shifted so much.
I know, it's
in the way of racing, surfing.
Unreal.
And you having 12 boards doesn't surprise me because it's you, but also because if you want to do more than one style of paddling, then you're going to have a race board. You're going to have a downwind board. You're going to have a surfboard. You're going to have your flat water board. You might even have a yoga board. Yeah. Kelly might not, but
I might not, but I would just borrow one of yours.
Exactly.
Right? But no, that's true. Like, and that's like, that's where I thought like more of the evolution of the sport would go, like skiing, right? Because like I've skied all my life, and I've always had 2 or 3 pairs of skis because you're going to do different skiing. So, and you're 100% right. That's why I always had these boards. Mitchell had 2 different styles of race board, and then a board that he would just come out and paddle. So, you know, and again, I'm not saying, well, that's the way it should go, because I want people to be able to get out there. And there are a lot of those good all-around boards that's all they need, because they're going to paddle with their wife or their kids and just have fun. And that's just amazing. Like I said, the love I have for the sport is immense. I just wish that it would have followed a little bit different path that Costco and Walmart and all these cheap products didn't come in. I mean, I don't know if you're still connected, but you were with, what was the company?
I've been with a few different companies
but
over
in the beginning
years.
There, you were...
at the very beginning, we had Corbin.
Okay,
boards.
yeah.
Then from there, we went to Rogue.
Yeah.
And then
but all those are really
Love.
Yeah, all those are really good.
Yeah, they're all board brands.
Yeah.
And Boga Yoga we switched to when I switched to a lot more yoga.
Yeah.
I'm with Jimmy Lewis primarily now. Jimmy's always been a big part of our business from the very beginning, actually.
Yeah. And these guys came from the surf industry.
They come from the surf and the windsurf world, and they build boards as a tool for the job.
Yes.
Basically is how I always explain it. And if you do just want to go float around, then go buy a floaty style board.
That's true.
That's all you really need. And I do think in the industry facet of what you're talking about, it will come back to what you're saying. I think it just goes the net gets cast so wide, and everyone wants a piece of it.
Yep.
And then gradually those who are like, yeah, I did it. I have one of those, but I go out once in a while, kind of go away. The one thing that's coming, and I don't know if you're aware of it, is through the Olympics. And the Olympics always shine a light on sports and new sports coming in. And stand-up paddleboarding is still racing, is still on that list to be in future Olympic as a test sport.
Yeah.
And when that happens, I think you'll see the race community really push back again, and that area start to evolve the way it was when we first started.
Yeah.
And people were really getting into it. And then it sort of subsided. People are still doing it on a high level here, very much so, but very few.
And too, people, you know, and it's like, you would think to yourself, well, you know, I just want to buy a board and I want to paddle with my friends. What is the race community really going to benefit me? And it's just like anything like that. It's like, well, what does Formula One benefit me? It all trickles down to better cars that work better and all these things. And in our industry, like in the ski industry and all sorts like that, it trickles down for you getting a better board because the industry then learns from the racing, and it's an exciting thing to watch and it's an exciting thing to promote. I mean, look at the surf industry, multi-billion-dollar industry because of competition. There's lots of people that do unreal adventure surfing, all that kind of stuff, but it is the competitions. I don't ever see stand-up paddling get to that level, but that's what was so great about it. We would, like, especially my son, I got him into racing, and, for 2 or 3 years there, it was all summer. We would travel to California, Lake Tahoe, the interior. There were races everywhere. And even before COVID, they started to slow down because, again, that was just the first iteration. And some of them made money, some of them didn't. Some of them were run really well, some of them run really terribly. So, but that's the thing. Then, COVID hit and that shut them all down. And then they've been slow to come back. But that's just the nature of businesses like that. Then the ones that will come back will be really strong. But, and especially though, like for me and like my daughters and my wife, we would all go to these things to watch Mitchell. We didn't race, right? Yeah. My wife would be out buying us all our gear and clothing, right? She was like, I love this, right? And they're always in gorgeous places, and it's just a beautiful little road trip, 3 or 4 days. I mean, you're always going to Fino for a surfing event, or or last year or the year before, you were in Edmonton and Calgary, and you can travel with this sport. I, for 2 years, had my board on my van, and I traveled from California and back and forth, and every place I stopped, I paddled. Everywhere there's a lake. Everywhere there's the ocean. Some of them, like on the Oregon coast, I'm like, I'm not paddling in that. Yeah. But, it's such a great thing to take everywhere with you. Even when I was climbing, I was just finishing climbing, and I had my board, I would take it because I would go paddle on my down days, or, so I just think it's such a versatile sport. And again, I could go on forever, and this is a podcast, and we want to talk about other things, and it's just like, but I just so love it because it just feeds my soul when I'm out there of all the levels of things that I love. I love the technicalness of it. I love the skill of it. I love, and I don't call myself this, but my wife does, and even my friends. She's like, you are a waterman. There isn't a time that I'm around the water that I'm afraid with you, because for some bizarre reason, you know what the tide is, you know what the wind's going to do, you know what the barometric pressure is, all these stupid things that you don't even need to know. We're going to dinner, but you might tell me, the tide's low right now. So I love all that aspect of it. When I go on the water, it's like that 15-minute, I check my GPS, I look at the time, what's it flowing, and then when I get out there and I start to paddle and I start to breathe, I'm gone. It might be 2 hours and I come back and
I would call that, what I have sort of come to call that, is you becoming really present.
Yes.
And when we get into, a little sidebar here of the mental health world, getting really present to what's happening in the moment right now is so key.
Yes.
And I do think paddleboarding has a huge mental health benefit, hands down. 1, you're connecting with nature. 2, you can't be thinking about many other things.
Or you're in the water.
Or you're wet and in the water, and maybe cold, depending on where you are, maybe warm. But it gives people, whether you've done it once and whether you've done it 1,000 times, you still get that I'm here and now, and you can't be anywhere else. And that's where I brought in with the yoga aspect and really started to realize people were afraid of the ocean, for one. So I was trying to get them to paddleboard and do yoga on this big open body that they're already afraid of. People are afraid of the ocean for many different reasons, I've come to learn. What's under it, what's in it, what could come up from beneath, I don't know.
Bad movies that they see that aren't even true.
Yeah, these just sort of unknown fears. And when the hotel actually came to me back in 2017 and said, can you teach paddleboarding or paddleboard yoga in our pools? We'd love to offer this to our guests and to the local community. I said, you know what? I actually was just approached by a company who's created these, what you would call the true floaty, which is no fin, just a rectangle that you inflate, but it's inflated firm like a paddleboard so that you have a stable platform, but you still have that moving quality of water. And now we've bridged the gap of people trying to stand up on the water in a very controlled environment, a pool, a heated pool at that. And so if they fall in and even if they're afraid and they can't get back on the mat, the floating mat, they swim to the edge of the pool or the shallow end and they walk out.
That's amazing.
And they're so happy because now they're like, well, I did it. I tried it. Now I can get back on and try again. And it's very controlled. I have tried teaching stand-up paddleboarding in a pool. It's really hard because you take 2 strokes and you're on the other end of any pool.
Yeah.
But you can do it. It can be done. But the on-water yoga practice, because it's activating all the right muscles, it's remembering everything that you would do on the ocean or on a river or lake. You have this muscle memory that continues to come back. And I say for the off season, for people who don't want to get a wetsuit or dry suit and paddle in the cold or on cold water, then go and do a on-water class, because you're likely 50% chance you're not going to get wet. 50% chance you will, but then you get this opportunity to actually get really present, and people leave that class feeling like they accomplished something, they got a bit of a workout, and they're calmer when they leave than when they showed up.
Well, isn't that like, I mean, again, I did like a 3-minute bit of yoga, but I know, I understand what it's all about. I think it actually is really great. I have a bunch of, I'll say the weird one that I do, but isn't that what yoga is too? You're doing this physical exercise. And I take it back to like rock climbing. Rock climbing is incredibly physical, but incredibly mental. You have to be there. And it's the same with yoga. To do those poses, you're not only being physical, but you're being mental. You're in the presence. And then throw it on a floaty. And even like, I like pools because it's still water. And then put it on the water. Like, what an incredible combination for someone that maybe is having just normal crappy stress in their life. Their job is good, but at this moment it sucks. They don't want to quit or they don't want to leave their life, but they're just stressed. And then it's like, that's where I like incredibly loved stand-up paddling. I would go to that beach like going, oh, I don't even know if I'm going to go on the water today because I'm just losing it. And then, and have to force myself because I'm just like, this is stupid. I should be doing all this other stuff. And then once I'm on the board and once there's 2 or 3 pounds, like, oh no, this is where I need to be. It's only an hour.
You're so rarely going to say, I'm really upset that I went paddleboarding today.
It's never happened.
Right?
Never.
So you get back from, whether it's a 5-minute paddle, a 3-hour paddle, you get back and you're like, I'm a whole new person.
Yeah, that's unreal.
And the book Blue Mind, if anyone is into reading about the water, is quite technical, but it gives a lot of researched information about why we're connected to water. Why do we want to sit by a fountain in an urban environment? Why are we drawn to watch the sunrise or the sunset by the ocean? We can watch the sunrise or sunset from anywhere, but we always are drawn to the water because we get something back from it and we come from it.
Yeah.
As beings, we are cellular and we are more water than anything else. So,
and I that's where my, let's say, unsubstantiated, non-scientific belief comes from. Because like there's three kind of weird spiritual things that when I tell people, they look at me and go like, dude, you're smoking a cigar and drinking whiskey with me. You have said the fuck word 100 times, but you do these 3 things. I'm like, yeah, because there is shit in this world that's like really weird to explain. So I believe in grounding. So I like to be barefoot as much as possible, but at the beach and even paddling, I don't wear shoes. I just don't like that. I want to feel my board. I want to feel the water. So I believe in grounding. And I believe that I don't know what the ocean may give to everybody, but it is the largest body of thing on our earth. Continents are dwarfed by it, especially the Pacific Ocean. And it holds more energy than our brains can even imagine. It holds all the energy that the sun puts out, and it holds it. So where does that energy go? Energy goes somewhere. I mean, that's my basic science. I know that energy is created. So I believe that when I'm on the water, I open myself to that, and I try to let that energy flow in. Is it positive or negative? It's neither, because it's a neutral energy. You make it what you need it to be. And obviously, I try to go out with a positive attitude, and it seems to always be positive, but that's what I feel it does. It's just like, it is such an immense thing. And I follow tons of people that sail all over the world, and that's where they feel it too. They go, I don't know what it is. I don't know. But when I'm not on the water, I feel different. When I am on the water, I feel better. So, and that's, my weird thing. And then the last thing is like, I love doing like sound baths. I'm very connected to sound because I've played music all my life, but I've just had a very close connection. Like when I'm on the water and it's quiet, it isn't quiet. There's all these subtle sounds, right? And especially when you're in nature, and I've like rock climbing for years in really desolate places, it's not quiet. It's this energy of sound from nature, the birds, the wind. So yeah, I love doing sound baths. I wish I could combine sound baths with paddling on the water.
Well, we are talking about doing sound baths at the pool
No way.
Start.
Oh,
yeah.
my. Okay, well, if
on
you're
the floating mat. So
okay.
if we do that, I'm definitely getting.
Oh yeah, you got, because I won't do any. I'll just lie there. I'll lift the leg or something.
Oh yeah. There wouldn't be much movement, but
Yeah.
I have done sound baths in a pool in Mexico where you're in the water and your ears are submerged and the bowls are half submerged. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's magic. And
oh my God.
It brings together both worlds.
Oh my God. I want that. That's amazing.
I love your three things, and I really resonate with the connection, of course, with water and the vibration of sound.
Yes.
And that element of nature. And you would appreciate this because you're a music guy. You can't have music without quiet as well, right? So that's what
music
people
is.
don't think about that.
No.
People think, well, music is noise. You're like, but it's only noise between the silence. You need both.
And the greatest music in the world from anyone. It could be classical music, it can be ambient music, it could be heavy metal. Every single one of those people know that. And they go, well, it's not that. It's the silence between the noise I'm making. And a lot of people that make great music don't even call it music. They just call it noise. It's just another part of things we learn, but it's that silence in between it. And that's what is so interesting in nature, because those silences can be so interestingly subtle and mystical, and the wind sounds and
like
birds.
The sound of a whale.
Oh, a whale. Okay, there you go. So that was like, she's going to want to talk about. So then, okay, so we met on this beach and we became friends because we paddled and we ran into each other for like that year.
On the water.
Yeah, all the time. I'm like, oh, how's your business going? How's the business? Great. And it just got better and better and better. And then I was doing some jobs and I wouldn't see her much, but then it was doing really well. And she was running like paddles for people, right? Gather up people. And she'd call me up. Yeah, Kelly, we're heading out at Kit's at 7 a.m. You want, and I could just go and hang out because she liked me to hang out because I was funny, because I swore a lot. And, maybe it was another hand because I was a good paddler and, I could watch people too, but I just loved hanging out. It was like, hanging out with people paddling. So then one summer in the bay, there was whales. I think there were humpbacks, weren't they?
There was humpbacks, yeah.
And so I remember, I don't know if I was talking to you, but I was texting you and you were like, yeah, we were out there and we saw the whales. And I'm like, no way. She's like, yeah, we're going to head out on Saturday or Sunday. It may have been a weekday. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm in.
That year, there was one particular whale and us and a California sea lion. They were like buddies, and they were hanging out in the bay during that. I want to say it was around 2015, I think, 2016, something like that. And yeah, I felt like I was running whale watching tours for paddleboards, because for about 3 weeks, every morning we would, someone in the area would say, oh, I saw the whale up by Locarno, or I saw it down by Kit's. And it was in the bay. People never really think that the whale is right there. I've seen both gray whale and humpbacks in the bay. I've yet to see orcas. Every time I hear the orcas were there, I was there either an hour before or an hour after.
So yeah, that's incredible. So then one morning I'm like, okay, I'm coming down. The whales are being sighted. I didn't have any expectations and jump on the boards. We're just paddling. It was summertime. It was beautiful. It was warm, and it was a beautiful, calm day. And we see a spray. So we paddle toward it. Oh, it's getting closer. We paddle toward it. Oh, this is fabulous. And then we're thinking, well, we're kind of in the vicinity. We just sit quietly, right? Because you're just like, and the whale came by, and it was not 4 feet. It came right up and then just went under my board by inches. And there was this, I don't know who this guy was, because he was just one of the guys that showed up. And he was like, he was like, holy shit, dude. Holy shit. That was incredible. Are you okay? And I was kneeling and I was shaking, not because I was scared. I was just so excited. I was like, that was the most incredible thing ever. And he's like, I travel to Hawaii all the time to get this experience, man. It's happening right here. And I was like, and then it came by again and I got video of it. It wasn't as close, but it was feet away. And I'm like, how incredible is that, right?
Oh, we were so blessed during that time. And
it was crazy.
Yeah, it was unreal.
It was like for me, maybe for you, it was like one of the, not epicenters, but one of the great seasons of paddling. I was out all the time. The weather was stellar. It was beautiful, warm.
It was calm. It was warm. The whale was around. There was just people.
There was sea life everywhere too.
There was just a lot of activity in the ocean. And it does seem to ebb and flow a little bit with every year. Some years people are like, well, I don't see anything.
Yep.
Well, it depends on what's happening in and around environmentally.
Yep.
Construction can affect that, the noise. I did actually see a friend of ours, Shannon, posted recently that she saw a whale in the bay only
awesome.
about a week ago. So they're around.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, they're always there.
You just got to be there a lot. Yeah.
This is whether we see them or not. And when we were there a lot, we were more open to be able to see them. Yeah. The chances of seeing a whale are like that are very slim.
Very.
But I did travel. I was fortunate enough to travel up to the Great Bear Rainforest with Norm a few years back.
Just let me jump in there. So Norm Hanna is, one of the OGs of paddling too. He was one of the first people I met because my son wanted to become an instructor, and he is just an amazing human being. I've talked to him. We're going to get him on the show, but he lives over in the island now, but he's going to come over and, we're going to go crazy. Like I said, he taught my son to be an instructor. He's an incredible racer. They raced a lot together, but just an awesome person. Like, as far as the paddling world, an incredible ambassador. But he has a super, super, super strong connection to British Columbia and our indigenous cultures. And he's paddled the Great Bear Rainforest for them and got it protected. And he's done some incredible paddles. And he runs a company too that's adventure paddling. He was doing it out of Belize. There was trips down there. I don't know if he still is. There you go.
There's trips coming up to Belize.
Yep, amazing.
Shortly, actually.
Yeah. And then
he does some amazing trips, taking people to Portugal later this year too. And he's a longtime friend of mine from the paddle community.
Yep.
Turns out we actually were both born in the same city in Northern Ontario, which is very odd.
That is very odd, especially in Northern Ontario. Nobody wants to be from there. No, I'm just kidding.
Pretty much. That's why we live out here.
Yep.
But going to the Great Bear Rainforest, we saw humpbacks bubble net feeding all along that coast, paddleboarding. So we were boat supported when we did that. And sometimes we saw them from the boat, sometimes from the paddleboard. But just getting to the ocean as much as you can. If you want to see a whale, if that's on your bucket list, then you have to be near the ocean.
Yeah, and too, there's lots of forms that are a good way to do it. I've paddled different things. I've paddled OCs, which are ocean kayaks, like the Italian style boards, the Hawaiian style canoes. And I really enjoy it. It's just, I can't do it because of my back. And same with kayaking. I've done kayaking and it's not conducive to my back. I've got a bad lower back. I can do it for a bit, but there's no way around it. And then that's when stand-up came, I was like, and in fact, because I haven't been on it for a year, my back's bad because there's a rotating factor. There's that core it's like, to me, I was like, boom, here's my sport. The only thing that hurts is my feet after a while, but I can just sit down and soak them in the water. Right. So
I need to get Kelly to come to a session of foundation training.
Yeah.
So I started teaching foundation training,
cool.
which is a very specific style. It doesn't look like you're doing anything, but you're activating everything. And that's the type of thing for someone with a lower back. So it was something I got into through both paddleboarding and yoga. And I wanted to bridge my gap between that yoga world and the fitness world and the paddling world. And foundation training creates a hinge in your body. It puts your body into the most functional way to move and exercises it there, so it wants to go back there rather than how we tend to sit a lot of the day and round our back.
Is it on land or water?
It can be either, but
you do it on land?
We do it on land primarily.
That sounds interesting. Yeah, it's probably something I could really benefit from because now that I'm a level 62, my back is getting a little bit wanky.
I think you meant 6.2.
So that's my new way of saying my age. Because for gamers, it sounds like I'm way up there.
Right?
I'm a level 62. What are you? You're a level 28? You got a long way to go, son. I'm going to kick your ass. So I'm a level 62. So let me ask you, now, how long have you been doing this business now? The SUP business?
Oh, well, it's 2011. So I stood on my first paddleboard in 2010. I started Stand Up Paddle Vancouver in 2011. And then I started Just Add Water Yoga, which was born out of retreats I was hosting that we called Just Add Water.
Yeah.
Just Add Water Yoga and SUP is sort of our new website and all of that has been put together. So it's been a while.
Yeah. And so how has your experience been in that, like owning your own business? Because for me, I've owned my own businesses. We're in one of my businesses right now, Studio A at Get Ready Sound. But I've done multiple things, my rock climbing gym, plumbing businesses, all sorts of things. how's your experience been, and have you enjoyed it? Are you like, yeah, I love it, I'm glad I did it? Or, I'm not going to say, is it hard? Because your own business, there's always difficulties, but, is the passion still there? Is it going the way you want it?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because now that I've been in it for as long as I have in this specific business, I still love it. Good. I still want to share it. I have a hard time pulling myself away from it. I start thinking about other things I want to do, and there definitely is a laundry list of things I'd like to do. One area that I want to focus more on is environmental. Mm-hmm. I think I've always shared that passion through being on the water, getting people off the land without technology and helping them understand where it all comes from and why we should protect this beautiful thing that we have. That's a big piece of where I want to go, or where I am going. But the evolution of running your business and the starting, the learning, the parts that end amongst it. My partner who I started with, 2 years later, she wanted to move somewhere else and get out of it. So I bought the whole business, and I have run it solely from then. I then turned it into a corporation, learning a lot of that as well. Yeah. Working with the hotel, running other programs.
Turning that whole yoga part coming into, it's amazing.
And if you went backwards in my history pre where we met, which is actually exactly where this world evolved for me, I worked for Whistler Blackcomb. I worked in sales and marketing. I worked in the Forest Service. I was a dispatcher on radio for helicopters for forest fires. Like, I did a lot of other things. I worked in agriculture. I went to school. I have a diploma in agriculture, which I feel like I use but don't use.
Yeah.
But you're only where you are now because of all the things you did previous to now. And that's something I've always really started to recognize when I've been fortunate enough to travel a lot of places. I went to Antarctica and taught yoga on a ship many years ago. Unfortunately, pre-paddleboarding, because now they paddleboard in Antarctica too.
Oh, crazy.
And yeah, I've just been able to travel the world, be part of Team Canada, and do a lot of things because of my willingness to just say yes.
Yeah.
And I think as an entrepreneur, there is that piece of you that has to kind of let go of some of the control of what's going on around you and just be like, this is what I'm doing. And as long as I'm doing it to the best of my ability, I'll attract the right people. The right things are going to flow my way. And I'll be like the river, like the ocean. Yep. I'll just keep moving.
You bet. I find that too, that you're like 100% right on that. You can just do what you're going to do, and you just do that. And if you're doing it good and you're doing it right, it doesn't have to be great, because in the beginning, you're not great. You're learning. Everyone's learning. People flow in and come to help you. How lucky was it that you met me?
Exactly. I'm here now.
Yeah. And the past experience you had with all those other jobs, because I have young people, I mentor a lot for business, and they go, oh, all that other stuff isn't important. Are you kidding? That's all important. You've already learned how to deal with people, because in that job, you already learned how to deal with technology in that job. So you combine it all into what your entrepreneurial spirit may be. And then they always go, well, then what do I do? I said, well, you get out of bed and you take your first step, and you be nervous and you be scared and you have anxiety and you wonder if it's going to work. And failure is your best lesson, because success is easy. Failure is where you learn everything, because that's what you're not going to do again, and you do something else. The other thing that I noticed, okay, so this is weird, and I'm looking at the time, and I'm like, see, I knew this would fly by.
I know, we'll never stop.
Yeah, we'll just do another one, right? Because like I said, I just love this, but it's not just paddling. I love that what you've done, your business, it's grown, it's so good. And the other thing, though, I noticed when all this was starting, and again, I'm just kind of a little bit bullshitting, but not really. Like, people would come to me because they're like, oh, I heard you were the first guy that had boards. And you know what was really weird? This industry attracted a lot of women to start their businesses and stand-up paddling. Okay, now I'm going to say that's the only ones I know outside of Norm, and you, okay, and yours has lasted, but I helped out 2 or 3 other women. I still don't know if they're going or whatever. And like, because men are men, right? I'm just going to buy a board. I'm going to go out there on my own. I don't know exactly, but whenever I paddled with all your classes, the majority of them were women. Because women are so much more into learning, their together spaces, right? And, all that kind of stuff, which is great. Where guys are like, I'm just going to jump on it and paddle and figure it out. We're like kind of retarded that way. And I hate that because they're paddling wrong. But, and in saying that, like you've really lasted the test of time. And I'm sure there's a few other companies out there, but you're definitely the OG, like you and Norm.
Well, and I've always sort of said, and I believe it's still 100% true, is we were the first stand-up paddle only business in Vancouver.
Yes.
Because everyone else did kayak or something else in addition to stand-up paddleboarding. We never swayed from our passion. So we started that way. I continue to be that way. We do everything on a paddleboard besides the pool, but it's like a paddleboard.
It's like a paddleboard.
It's as close as you can get. So it's kind of maintained that structure. And I think there's something to be said about having that vein in your business that is consistent.
Yes.
So yeah, you can do a lot of other things. And I've actually only just recently, so I had gone into having my own yoga studio back in, 2019 we opened. We did our grand opening in January of 2020. And if you're doing the date times here stamped by March of 2020, everything shut down. So owning a yoga studio, brick and mortar shop was a bad idea.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a bad idea in the sense that, just like you said, I learned so much over these last 4.5 years with that space. And at the start of this year in 2024, I released that space from my management. So I've now realized I need to go back to my roots. I need to go back to the vein that I've always had, which is water.
Yeah.
And so I've really targeted going into 2024 being water focused again. So whether that's stand-up paddleboarding, whether that's just getting to the ocean, near it, on it, around it, in it. I'm doing a bit of cold plunging like everybody else.
Yep, cool.
It's fun. I don't do it to try and beat a time or make myself feel terrible, because it actually makes you feel really good. But there's just these layers of sticking with the water.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. I can't quite pull myself out of it completely. And I think that's where the environmental piece will come into play. Yeah. It'll sort of flow into everything else that I'm doing.
It's what I try to tell young people, that it isn't about success so much. It's about creation, and creation, really comes from passion. And it's not like, oh, you have to be this super passionate person about just this one thing, but it is about, that's what I connect to, and then being honest with it, and then continuing it as a business. And we all, I've had businesses and I did the same thing, then get pulled other ways. Oh, I think I can do this, and I think I can
do that too, and I'll do that too.
And then I've realized now, over these years, you only have really one good idea, and stick with that really good idea. All the other things people can do. You can have someone else do it for you and make some money there with them. But it's that one thing that you are willing to sit down and talk to anyone about, and they walk away and go, God, that guy's an idiot. I don't care about a recording studio, or I don't care about, and I'm just like, oh, that was such a good conversation. Yeah. I loved talking to him about it, because that's how kind of like diluted you have to be in your passion for it. And then that passion creates the pathway. And the positiveness that people you draw in, right? And it's just excellent. I'm going to say right now, we're going to do another podcast, because we're getting coming up.
Well, yeah. And all I was going to say is, like, for me, when you talk about that, what flashed into my mind is, what I really want to be doing is surfing all the time. And how can I do that more? Yeah. And my business helps me do that. Yeah. But there's an element of it that I just want to enjoy, much like you've said, I want to teach people to surf, but I also just want to surf. Yeah. So there's a recognition within those things that you love so much, and you need to recognize that they're just for you. And you said that right off the top. And I think that's really important. Always recognize that, what is it you need?
Yes.
And then let
it grow from there. But it's got to feed. It has to feed your need. And that sounds weird. And it sounds, like people go, well, isn't that narcissistic? Yeah, it is. But because if it doesn't, it's just like, you need to feed yourself properly, or you don't thrive. You need food.
Well,
same with that aspect. Your business has to feed you, because some days it's hard to get up.
Yeah.
And some days there's lots of pressures.
Yeah.
Some days, are we going to make the bills? And
you have to do the things that allow you to do the things, like, just like you said with the mentoring, when you tell people, like, you have to do these unfortunate jobs sometimes, but you learn so much. And you might not like your manager, but it means you'll be a better manager when you get to that place.
You bet.
So you've learned something in that process. And I think that's the real, crux of it all, is making that happen.
Okay. I'm going to give you your spot. tell us where everyone that's going to this is going to be 1 million views, listens, where they can get a hold of you, because we're recording this right now. It is the beginning of February. So SUP starts in April-ish or something.
Well, I run year round. So if you do want to join me on the water, even through the winter months, you do need a wetsuit or a dry suit up until roughly March. And then we'll start talking about different clothing choices. But standuppaddlevancouver.com, you can find me there. You can also find me through justaddwateryoga.com. Those two websites are linked together. So whether you remember one or the other, you'll find all of my programs.
Okay. Are you on Insta?
I am on Instagram at SUP Vancouver and Just Add Water Yoga.
Okay. Are you on TikTok?
Facebook, not on TikTok.
Oh, you got to get on TikTok. I'll show you how to get on it. It's the killer, man.
I don't know. There's just so many socials. I don't think I can handle it anymore.
There is, without a doubt. Okay. Well, that's awesome. You know what? I'm going to say that I'm going to have to invite you back. Because we have another hour of talking about adventures that we've had.
Oh, so many adventures.
And I'd like to talk more about a little bit more in depth about your business, and not just because you're a woman, but because you're a woman. You're a woman doing an incredible stand-up business, and you take people to Tofino surfing, and we got to talk more about exactly what you're doing in your businesses, the programs that you run, because I think people would be really interested in, and just. We have so much more to talk about.
We'll do a part 2, and then a part 3. And then
you bet. It'll be hard to get you during the season, right? But I would like to get you back mid-season. So you're paddling and you're doing that stuff, and you're going to tell us how the season's going and what's new and what's not new and paddleboards. That would be great, right? And because my program's really Vancouver oriented, I think it'd be really great. People want to do stuff in Vancouver for sure. It's that kind of city. So I would just like to say thank you so much for coming. Like I said, we've been working hard to get this done.
Yes, thank you so much.
It was great that you could come. Yeah, it took a while, but it was well worth it. And I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Remember, I get tongue-tied. The Guy Vancouver is the podcast. It's on Spotify, Apple. Go to it, download it, follow me. I'm on all the socials. So you can find me at the Guy Vancouver on Insta. I'm running a new TikTok. It's just so exciting. I did a mistake yesterday. I just took a picture of myself and it got posted and it had 300 likes. I'm like, what the heck?
You clearly need to post more pictures of yourself.
I just need to do more pictures of myself. I'd like to thank, too, our main sponsor, Get Ready Sound, always in Studio A. Sounds incredible, looks incredible, the greatest people in the world. You need to do podcasting, music, anything to do with audio, they can do it for you. Thanks so much, and we'll see you the next time.
Get Ready Sound is an innovative recording studio specializing in high-quality podcasts, voiceover, and post-production. Check them out online at getreadysound.com or find them on various social media platforms.